So welcome everyone. I would ask that you put yourselves on mute while the speakers are going through everything. If you have any questions, please do pop it into the chat and I'll kind of act as a co-moderator. But yeah, I'd like to welcome ill-esha and Luis, who are going to be running the call and talking all about their new campaign, EP drop and NFT sale. Exciting, innovative campaign that I think a lot of you will have a lot of questions about as well. So we will leave time towards the end for a bit of Q&A. But if you want to chime in during the event, just pop in a question on the chat there and I'll see if I can interrupt you guys. But yeah, it'll be an open conversation, chilled. Hope you get a lot out of it. And let's start off. Luis, you wanna introduce yourself, and ill-esha, you wanna introduce yourself and what you're about and talk more about this campaign?
Sure, thank you so much. Elle, you shoot first, please. Spotlight on you.
Oh, well then. All right. My name is ill-esha and I am a music producer, composer, sound designer, voiceover artist, and apparently visual artist lately. To be honest, this NFT thing has actually inspired me creatively in a whole bunch of different ways, which we will talk about a bit later. But yeah, I do a lot of things. I'm also a professor of electronic music production, live performance, and sound design at Berklee College of Music, Valencia.
Nice. Well, thanks for that intro and also catching up. My name is Luis Martinez. I'm co-founder of Staxe. I have been developing a blockchain-based initiative for the last 3 years, which is precisely Staxe. And our mission is really to empower creatives, just like ill-esha, to empower artists, but by really making use of this technology and more precisely to find, economic ways that we can enhance such empowerment, right? To actually bring more value to the events. And yes, I mean, mostly with tokenization and these tokenized models. And more recently, obviously with the pickup of the technology and the adoption, especially on the creative side, more involved with NFTs, hence why we are here with you today. So thank you so much. Thanks guys for having us. And it's an absolute pleasure to share this story so far. It's an unfinished story, right? We're halfway through. So yeah, it should be interesting. I guess today, what we have for you is mostly what we found most interesting is just to tell our story so far. We've learned so much from this project, Cryptowaves, which I'll allow ill-esha to introduce, and just tell you guys what the journey has been. From beginning to end. As you guys know, this is an emerging technology. So it's moving at extremely fast speed. It's hard to keep up. I can tell you guys that 3 years ago, I've been involved in blockchain for 4 years. I used to do mining rigs and these kind of things, and it was way easier to catch up back then. Today is just, there's no way. I mean, it's not a matter of time. It's just a matter of yeah, just the speed, the amount of information has just become very interesting, but at the same time very impossible to keep up with. But anyway, having said that, today there's many things to do. We are onboarding Cryptowaves, and ill-esha, want to tell us a little bit what Cryptowaves is about, how how this all started, just a brief intro into the project.
Sure. Well, I've always really been a fan of sort of appropriating my surroundings. And by that, I mean physical objects, right? Surfaces, ambient noises, and just taking the sonic fingerprints, so to speak, of my world. And so I'm always looking for different inspirations for sound generation. And I'd also been looking for innovative companies and visionaries and people to work with, because I've kind of been back and forth from Valencia for the last couple of years. I normally live in Colorado, but I really wanted to collaborate with other people in Europe and do something more with that. So I met Luis, and we started chatting, and he said, I've always been interested in sound design. And I said, wow, that's funny. I've always been interested in crypto. And he suggested that we trade lessons. So I started learning about how to read these charts. And before long, I kind of went, wait, those look a lot like wave tables. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, I'm about to show you the synth. Check this out. You can actually make anything into a wave table. I wonder what that would sound like, this Bitcoin chart. What about this Ethereum chart? And that idea kind of just ran away with me. And I went home and kind of just started sound generating. I took screenshots of some charts, crappy PNGs, and had to run them through Photoshop about 3 or 4 times, and then put them into several different synthesizers and challenged myself to make an entire 4-track EP out of it. And that kind of evolved towards creating a character that came from inside the blockchain. And then I started thinking, well, what if I use crypto finance terms? Because in my lessons about crypto finance, I was hearing all these crazy space age words tossed around, like interplanetary file system or eclipse attack or atomic swap. So I just kind of ran with that, started writing lyrics, and suddenly, finding out more about Staxe and what they did, we kind of came up with this cool idea together about what if, you're making an NFT. And at the time I hadn't even like thought about it, but this was a perfect opportunity. And it's just kind of evolved into a project that involves 3D animation, digital painting. And in the end, I've even taken the charts and done some generative visuals. So we've basically just launched 12 separate NFT offerings with different, some of them are art, some of them are audio visual. And yeah, I'll let Luis tell you a bit more about his side and his involvement in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting, as Alicia just mentioned. It's to put together these two very there's a huge gap in between these two worlds, right? So my background's mostly in finance. I've always been in mostly in trading, precisely, bringing tribute to Cryptowaves, mostly in banking, trading, and other boring stuff. But my real passion has always been really music, which is what ill-esha was talking about now. It's just fascinating. It has always been fascinating to watch the creative process. It's just a passion that is kind of a frustrated musician in that sense. We're always wanting to have these skills. So I have much pleasure in just watching someone, do what I wish I could do. I still have hopes. Ill-esha has been telling me, hey, you can still get in there for it's never too late, right? But anyway, in the meantime, we're doing these very interesting ensemble, So it all started when she started looking at the charts, like she said, and she started just signaling to me, this is a wave. This looks so much like a wave. And hang on, if I get rid of this grid, and if I get rid of these like candlesticks that you usually see in this cryptographs, I think I could create a sound. And that's where it all started. She just took it over from there. It's been very interesting to see, like I just mentioned, how she started writing. Well, she just mentioned where the lyrics came from, and where all the let's say the initial base of the sounds came from. And from there, it just has evolved in many different directions, into audio visuals, into this mocap video filming, and creating a character. I think you forgot to mention that, you actually have created a character from scratch, which is the character you guys see on her picture on her background on the left. So that's there's many elements here that we could not possibly cover in the amount of time. But I guess let's focus the conversation and what is really what brought interest, first of all, in the NFT. So it's cool. I guess it's good to know what caught your attention with regards to mixing this Cryptowaves bit. But why NFTs, and when did you? Everyone's talking about NFTs. Everyone's hearing about NFTs. Can you give us a little bit more? How did you get involved, or when was it that you said, okay, I'll do this? I'll do this with an NFT, because you could have done Cryptowaves in many other different shapes, right?
Yeah, but it was very fitting, because it's built on the backbone of what inspired me. Like that was the whole thing. You were trying to do this concept, right? Which I think you should definitely explain more about, tokenizing live events. And then suddenly, you were the first person to tell me about NFTs. But within 48 hours, 12 of my friends just randomly came to me and went, "Oh, hey, NFTs." And I said, did you prank me? Did you pay all these people to just call me up right now? Because all of a sudden, that's all I'm hearing. And I think, honestly, it inspired me a lot more to create this whole thing in a larger scale than I've done for myself, because suddenly, honestly, it feels more special again. I've been a musician, touring musician, for 2 decades. I started when I was a really young teenager, and it's just been a grind of, I call it shouting into the abyss, and I'm sure there's people here that can relate. You just, hey, I have a song on Spotify. It's the 59,987th song uploaded today. Check it out. So that has kind of demotivated me. And it's not just that I'm doing it for the views, but it's just when no one even hears it at all, and our closest friends miss it, and you kind of just go, part of music for me is communicating. And for the first time, this NFT felt like a communication of, hey, I'm going to put all this effort and care into creating a piece of art that's going to be collected by somebody who's going to treasure it for what it is. And it's not shouting into the abyss.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, the way that we started the collaboration, once this all got kind of conceptualized, was okay, let's see how our skills and basically what we do could fit together. And what we do here at Staxe, as mentioned, is just to provide economic opportunities. Specifically, the whole project started because we knew we encounter so many situations, and maybe some people here in the room might have found themselves here, where specifically, with promoters and emerging artists, sometimes all the pieces are there, right? We have the venue, we have the booking, with the artist is available, it's a good price. We know the audience will, it's a very high chance of a sold out event. You have all the pieces. All you need to do is just launch the tickets, but you can't print them, right? Until you have secured all of this. And let's think about a mid-tier event. Initially to kickstart it, we have found that you need somewhere in the range of, I don't know, from 10K all the way to 50K in those mid-tier. I'm talking mid-tier, I'm defining something, from 200 people to 5,000 people or so. So just to kickstart, the reserve prices, some bookings, some of these are typically upfront costs, and everything is ready, but except the cash, the initial cash is not there. And then the event never takes place. And then it's just like, guys, no way, this cannot be possible. We need to do something about it. And this is why we decided to launch Staxe. So what we do really is tokenize the whole thing. We tokenize it so that we can allow people to buy in and become a partner of the event, and thus take a share of the profits. So this is the instance that I'm showing on screen. We showcase specific artists. We've done, a range of different events. And this is, as mentioned, this is kind of like we signal to potential collectors and investors and all of these, this new market. Guys, there's about, I think we reached a new high this morning. I think there's about 1.5 trillion US dollars right now floating around in the crypto market. And to give you guys an edge, that's, I think, bigger than the size of the economy of, even Canada. I mean, for ill-esha's reference. So it's a lot of money, and it's looking into opportunities to deploy that money to generate return on investment, which is what these words mean. So we allow them in. We allow people to come invest. We're about to launch this tomorrow to just precisely allow people who are interested in just generating more returns on their current holdings, crypto holdings, to come in here, just the way they're doing with NFTs. But this is just a finance event. As I mentioned, we want to make sure that this event that might not have happened if we didn't exist to exist. Maybe Cryptowaves wouldn't have happened, or they wouldn't have happened in its current shape. So that's exactly what we do, and that's exactly how the whole collaboration began. And it's been a fantastic experience, really, in how we in the amount of energy. If you have, I guess, a creator or any artist with the right amount of energy and hunger, regardless of the situation that we have right now out there, very interesting things happen, such as what we have in our hands now. But to really share the experience with you guys, I think it would be worthwhile. Elle, if you agree, let's take a look at kind of the minting process and how we started defining this, because there's a whole world, there's platforms to think about. We started talking about, hey, which platforms should we use? For example, what are the limitations of such platforms? And then it becomes this huge, like almost 5-dimensional matrix of the different possibilities. And just to name a few, it's, our discussions, you can add some, if you find any, but for example, what is it that I'm trying to put out there? in the as an auction or as a sale in the digital space. And this is this is what we like to call the metaverse, right? So what is it that I want to put out there? And then the next thing is, what does that media require? It needs to live somewhere in the internet or in the metaverse. Well, so how, how can I attach this what I'm showing on screen, the token itself and its potential distribution? How do I put this all together in the blockchain? And so we started taking a look at options. And as you guys know, there's a bunch of first networks, which is also a big topic. For example, Ethereum right now, this morning, all-time high. It's in short supply. It's what's happening to Ethereum. There's not enough coins. There's not enough. There's more demand for the coin than there is supply, and therefore it continuously drives up prices, and thus it has become the most expensive right now network to deploy in. Notwithstanding, we at Staxe, we deploy to the Ethereum network, and we will continue to do so. We really don't care about the cost for the time being. This is why you can see right now here you can see also some other events, but we're fundraising Ether. And the reason for this is for its decentralization element. And it's one of the strongest networks. Let's say Bitcoin is also out there. It's one of the strongest networks that we can actually see for really respecting that element of, what happens if tomorrow our art, our music, or in 50 years, for whatever reason, it does not, it gets censored. Let's just think about a crazy radical idea where we could say, hey, in 20 years, we have another very strange situation when we have a new government or a new shape of government that says, hey, art should be banned, or whatever piece of art should be banned because A, B, or C reasons, or X, Y, Z reasons. So what's really cool is, we've seen this happen in China. We've seen this happen in some countries. As you guys know, some of the art will not be available to certain countries because they ban it, because they can't, not in the blockchain. So this is a decentralization, what we call in the space, what is it? Resistant to being, what is it? To being blocked, basically, to being, I can't find the word. Just to being banned by whatever entity or centralized government. And this is the difference from centralized to censored. Did you say? Yeah, that's it. Censored by a government or censored by an entity. This cannot happen. In order to censor something on the blockchain, you need to turn off internet, basically. So that's where I personally see the biggest game-changing deal. And this is why it's so important to have this in mind. And this is why it's driving prices up. And this is why people are kind of paying these, on a surreal prices for the art that's being shot out there. So we started this conversation, as Il mentioned, about 3 weeks back, no, almost a month back. And back then it was a huge hype. We had Blau, reaching I think the largest NFT. It's been 5 weeks.
This whole project came together in 5 weeks. It's probably the fastest I've ever done anything, just by the way. I don't usually write, maybe 3 days total on the album, and then the rest visuals and production. Yeah, and 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's been, and then during these 5 weeks, we were looking at things like this on screen. Can you guys see the platform matrix? Okay.
But this is NFT time, and I just want to mention, like, we did it like this because the NFT goes by so fast, things change, and we wanted to make sure we got in on it while it was hot.
Exactly. I mean, but back then that was the peak. So far,
5 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a peak because we have 11 million. We were looking at from every direction. Also, let's say I think Christie's and the art sphere were reaching 60 million sales, which were like out of this world. And then Blau and then several DJs there, Rack. We had quite a few guys do successful NFT drops with all the way up to 11 million on existing content. They didn't even, they did. At least the music side, they already had it. It was already old, or let's say already published content or art, and then they just added the visuals and they packed it up really well by allowing them to let's say there's a really cool saying by I like this guy, if you guys want to follow him. He's one of these investors from Anderson Horowitz back in the US, And these guys started the whole deal in blockchain and the digital asset space. They're the beginning. They started investing in Coinbase like 5 to 6 years ago. And these guys just say, there's a really cool saying that mentions, hey, if you have 100 true fans, then that's all you need. If you have 100 real fans that will follow you, then that's all you need to really make it as an artist from an economic standpoint. Why? Because then you can allocate your art, your assets, your creations into different, let's say, tiers. Whereas you will have, let's say, the top hardcore fan who will buy anything off you, your merch, whatever. It doesn't matter. You have less price sensitive people that will go and hunt after your art as your hardcore fan. But then you'll have people who have, let's say, a lower purchasing power, but you can also allocate, let's say, many copies of that art to several people, which is kind of the streaming content story. So it's just open spaces. That's the first thing I want to mention. It opens space for capturing value. This is a fact. It's not a trend. It's a shift in the economic value that can be captured by these by the internet, by the blockchain, and just in general. But yeah, so if you, I'm doing all the talking. You maybe why don't you tell us what was it like? Because I think we went thoroughly through this matrix, and we started, looking at various elements that you guys can see on screen, specifically on the columns. And there's several different things that I think some of us might or might not know about. But I think it'd be good to hear it from you as the artist. What was it that made you go for one specific platform after we dove deep into this, and what made, what were the factors that made that decision? Go forward.
Maybe you should open up instead. Go back to that grid in a bit, but the actual NFT page, so I can explain exactly why this was to be honest, it was a little bit of a nightmare to choose this, because it looks so simple, it seems so simple, but there are a lot of things to consider. And the first one was lazy and gasless minting, which is something that I just really learned about myself. So some of you might know about it, but for anyone who doesn't, it doesn't actually become on the blockchain until it is transferred, and essentially until you sell it, it's not really minted. And so that means you don't pay the gas fee up front, and that also means that you can edit. And these are two things that are always huge concerns for artists. Like, what if I make a mistake, right? Oh my gosh, and just freaking out. So the first thing I had to consider was if they did lazy gasless minting, because it's also, it's a little bit less energy consumptive that way. There's a lot of benefits, I think. So that really immediately narrowed it down to, you can see in that column 3 is just down to pretty much these 3. But I also looked at the other ones just to say, okay, well, is it worth it? Maybe they have a bigger client base. That was another thing, is certain one of these platforms, very much like promoters or record labels or collectives, they all have their crowd, and they're all even graphically geared towards that. For instance, OpenSea is known as the eBay of NFTs. And to be honest, it was my absolute last choice, just based on the hype. Even though that was where I ended up minting, I was just like, OpenSea, I don't want to be on eBay. Here's my artistic ego. I'm too cool to be on eBay, right? So then I thought, well, I want to be on these curated ones, because all my cool friends, all my famous DJ buddies are doing drops on Nifty Gateway or Foundation and Super Rare. And so I had these kind of on my brain. And if you look really close on that chart, they all take 15% of the sale versus all the non-curated platforms, which take anywhere from 0 to 2.5. And that's a pretty significant jump. And I didn't even look at that part because I fell for it. I was watching the hype, and still, of course, if somebody invited me to do a curated drop, it would be a cool experience, and I would probably design something to fit into that. But here's another issue with almost all of these or all of them actually, they don't allow unlockable or hidden content. And this is a nightmare for me, because I wanted to do so much. And if you go back to my NFTs, this is what I wanted to show them. You can see, show them some of the 3D animation and stuff. So the file size that you're allowed to upload is extremely small on most of these. For instance, on Rarible, it's 30 megs. On one of them, Mintable or Mintbase or something, it's 10 megs. Here, go back to the NFT page if you can, Luis. You just go to one of the heavy, go to the bottom. So I have, from my understanding and from what I want to do, it all has to be high quality. So that means 4K video. And if you press play on that for a sec, just let's take them through a few seconds. So it's very, and you're not sharing sound, which is okay because I can keep talking. But essentially, there's audio and there's video. No, it's not going to work unless you unshare and reshare with Zoom. It's Zoom bullshit. Don't worry about it. So this is all 4K animation. And like this animation, for instance, is 1 minute and 17 seconds long. And this is an unlockable auction. So if you look at the parameters of this item, if you want to close that for a sec, it shows that it comes with the 4K music video, my entire EP, this unique animation that's 1 minute, 17 seconds long, and my journal, even a physical one of one item. So this is my most expensive NFT right here. And if they don't allow unlockables, there's just no way that I can put them up there, right? So that really immediately pared down my choices. Especially, I actually tried with Rarible because it's still, I was like, oh, this one looks a little more high end. It seems like they're selling, but 30 megs, even if you go up to the still auctions, like the photos, I couldn't get any of those under 30 megs. And these ones at the top, and these are basically animated digital art. They have Max for Live. It's a generative patch that I made to make visuals out of the graphs. So they have moving graphs over top of them, but they're just what, 26 seconds. And then they have original compositions that are made from sounds in each currency. So this one is from Uniswap. And even those are at their smallest, maybe 40 megs. So basically everything at this point is out to me except OpenSea and Cargo. And Cargo, we went through the Cargo process and we got all the way to the end, and then they wanted almost an entire ETH to set up a storefront, which if any of you follow crypto, you will know is like what, like $2,400. So I kind of got to that point and went, wait, did it open a thing where I can mint NFTs? No, sorry, I can't do that. And that basically just brought me back to OpenSea. So that is how I made my final decision. OpenSea allows up to 100 megs of upload. So I was able to get at least the main visual animations and basic assets all in there, and they allow unlockables. So most of the content has entire songs, albums, whatever that you can unlock. And they do gasless minting, which means that I don't have to pay any of these fees until somebody buys them. So there's a lot of reasons that, and that was, as I tell you this was maybe a 7-hour process of me trying to mint at all these different places and hitting a wall and then going to the next one. And at the end, I'm basically just going, oh gosh, I have to try again in the morning. I can't handle all these parameters being thrown at me. But now even looking at this chart again, I'm really glad for this. The one problem that I'm still trying to solve right now is where to actually store this unlockable content, because this is another interesting thing maybe you can speak to, Luis, about, why it's important to not just throw it up on my website or something like that.
Sure. I mean, this comes back to the topic a second ago about decentralization, right? So, NFTs, non-fungible, all of the blockchain, all of this is thrown out of the way the second that we place our content the way we usually do on the internet, which means it lives in a database. Again, it's not censorship resistant. It's not what guarantee do we have, or our collector has for actually knowing that media that he owns, that we have granted him the copyright or whatever it is that we have given him, will prevail. That agreement that you guys have with your collector as a creator, how do we make that prevail throughout time? So putting it in the internet, I can tell you it's not enough anymore. Not now when we have the Ethereum, at least not for an experienced collector that's shredding out these many, is buying with ETH, 5-figure, 6-figure offers or bits. So I think what could really summarize that is the networks part. As you can see, most of it living on Ethereum. I think something that we didn't mention is just, we were doing the minting this week, and we're looking at per NFT. If you want to do a standalone NFT minting, you'll be paying in gas, which is the Ethereum transaction cost. You'll be paying somewhere in the range of 120. And well, like I said this morning, it just continues to go higher and higher, all the way up to 200, 250 euros, depending on the network saturation. So this is something to consider first. If you want to be in Ethereum, which is currently the most decentralized network for deploying or actually minting the NFTs. Remember, if you mint an NFT in a particular network, it will not be validated by a second network. So an interesting question that has been made to us in the recent weeks is, hey, what if I mint my NFT in 2 different blockchains? And that's an interesting one, actually. It will only be validated, the property right, the verifiable rights of that property can only be verified in one particular network. We're starting to see, infrastructure evolve into what we call cross-chain validation, but this is in its fairly early stages, and it goes against the essence of decentralization, right? So this is the first one that you have to look at. Then obviously the fees, definitely where it gets stored. This is the new one, guys. Content storage. This is what precisely what ill-esha was saying. Hey, do I put this on a decentralized storage, which would be Arweave or, for example, IPFS? This is considered by the collectors much more valuable, and I cannot, finish, or I cannot complete, highlighting how important this is for the collectors, because it's not. Yes, they are looking at the same thing that we're used to in a digital shape. Yes, quality of art, specific interests, aligning with their identity, whatever it is that we usually have. This one's new. And I think many creators are failing to understand that they're investing in you, they're investing in your art, they want to own it, yeah, but they want to own it for a long time, like I mentioned. They want to own it in 50 years. They want to make this kind of like immortalize that ownership. And that's why this content storage part is very important. I think many creators right now are failing to actually consider this for their creators. It's just to put it simple for you guys, it makes it more valuable, period, for the collector. It's just the way it works, because they have much more reliance on the actual storage of the media. But well, anyway, there's other things to talk about, kind of what you could do. I think we covered the most interesting ones. Nifty Gateway right now, we're looking at, I think we're looking at 11,000 when you were looking at a waiting list. It's just gone off the roof.
No, not Nifty Gateway. It was a Foundation. Foundation is the one that shills for it. It's a popularity contest. They make you basically beg people to vote for you, and then you move up this list, or you get invited.
Yeah, it's gotten way too saturated right now. But yeah, I mean, just like any breakthrough, it should level out. We'll see this burst, this explosion of adoption kind of materialize in the next few months. But it's definitely worthwhile, regardless, to start, getting involved, right, and starting to see which one of these platforms are actually, we're seeing some that will be most likely for crypto art specifically, some other for music, some other for, let's say, traditional art or contemporary art. And we'll start seeing marketplaces for all kinds of stuff. So it's important to start getting acquainted and knowing if we're interested in this new space, especially in digital space, to look at the pros and cons that you have on screen. Anyway, happy to share with you guys later. Just shoot us a message. But I think what we'd like to also cover today is sometimes it's not enough to simply launch an NFT, right? So you launch an NFT, and that's great. And right now, with the saturation of the space, as mentioned, it's very hard to actually have the traffic, the view, and the PR around it to really have these collectors look at this. There's too much stuff right now, too much. There's NFTs being created by the second. So, how do you really make a stand? And that was kind of where Staxe came in. In this instance, we said, hey, why don't we do something crazy? And we actually build, as you can see, it's listed now. It's an auction. So it will.
This one's a set price because it's a multiple. The other ones are all auction.
So for the auction ones, what we came up with, well, you go ahead, because I do all the time.
No, you can click on at least one with the cool crypto spaceship so they could see that. That's one of my favorites. One of the bottom ones. Well, that one we already that one is well. Okay, we'll skip through it because the interesting part is halfway through. So okay. that one's an auction, and it ends, basically these are all strategically ending during the release party, and that's one thing that Staxe has really been doing for me is giving this extra push that normally I would have to, you know, sign with a record label in some way, and they would be taking a percentage of my profits, and then maybe they would front me. But to be honest with you, as an independent artist, these smaller labels, they really don't offer much in advances or support. They might do a small marketing campaign, but it's basically fend for yourself and we'll push it a little bit. And this has been the first time that it's given me more resources, literally, like financially speaking, but also mentally, because there's such a support team. So there are people putting together, they're helping me with the promo content, you know, helping me with the cost for things like this 3D animation. These are all excerpts from the music video, which, as Luis mentioned, I got a motion capture suit, which is also really expensive and difficult to get in Valencia, because it's Valencia. So there's a lot of fantastic production value that I was able to put in this, that actually just being on my own for years in the US as an artist, I could not, you know, and this is, that one's got me in it. It's a little teaser of the real life mixed with 3D animation. It's like little me on the right. But again, I've never done, you know, if you were to look me up and you're to look up my previous work, it's almost all just audio, because I've never had the additional resources to put together custom visuals like this on this level, or to promote this. And Luis is right. If I just put out an NFT, it's also shouting into the abyss, right? In a way, because of the quick saturation point that we've gotten to. So I think what's really changed here is, yeah, having that support and having this token, this sort of agreement that doesn't involve giving up my rights. So I still own this NFT, but I'm able to give back to my supporters in a way that actually I feel good about, because I'm not really the type of person, you know, personally, even Patreon, like I said, made me feel a little weird. And I like the idea of giving both ways. That's sort of been my philosophy as an artist for my whole life. So this has been a really cool experience to upgrade my production and allow people to kind of share in the excitement of it. And yeah.
So really to give ill-esha that visibility, and obviously to just venture into something new, because we really wanted to give this a try, and also because we want to persist to bring back live in any way or shape possible. It was to combine this in a hybrid event form, where which we will be executing on May 1st. If everyone is around Valencia, do give us a call. We'd love to have you and host you there. So we are doing a live performance with ill-esha and two other very talented audiovisual producers. And during, you know, we're throwing all kinds of perks in here. So for example, if you're an investor in the Staxe app, in ill-esha's event here, and you buy her token, you will be you will have access to one of actually both things. You can choose to come to the actual performance here live. We're going to do this quite exclusive with you know, specific guests that we have handpicked that are really interested in this industry. Some collectors, media, investors interested in these crypto space. But also doing this online via Twitch to several streaming platforms. So we'll have a live performance with a Twitch, with a streaming, live streaming performance, and obviously, you know, a nice production with all the visuals that the artists have prepared for this session. Their NFTs being showcased live. And what's most interesting is that during that performance, the auction will end. So we will have some, you know, we've been building, we're right now, I wish I could show you guys a bit more, but for example, we're building some cool overlays here. So which will allow us to put this on top of the screens. More specifically, these are the ones that we're looking at lately, where we'll be able to kind of put the, you know, hey, this is what we're looking at. These are the program will be the NFTs, and we will actually have a live, let's say, layover pumping into the screen in case we have a bidder during the performance. So that way we really want to venture into creating that, you know, that hype and that, oh man, it's ending the performance, and I can see why the value could be, and then what the value will be, and I can imagine, you know, ill-esha performing this in 6 months live, and then I'm the collector of that NFT which was launched back when the whole craziness of the NFT was, and that's kind of the emotion that we want to push into the collector. So we'll be having these overlays with the artists showcasing their art. We'll also be having a VR, a virtual room, as mentioned, with where we'll have with Soundstage.fm. So we'll be doing these guys are, by the way, in Barcelona, amazing startup as well, really cool guy that I've met through ill-esha, and he has one of the coolest VR rooms that I've seen. So we'll be having also a VR performance live.
And it mentioned it's a spatialized audio, so it's a virtual club that you can walk through. The art will be hanging on the walls, and you can go and look at it. But as well, you can walk towards the DJ or the performer if you want it to be louder. And then if you want to chat with your buddy whose avatar is floating next to you, you can walk to the back of the club. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Can I ask who's the startup in Barcelona? Who is it?
Sure, it's a Soundstage. Check them out.
Oh yes.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe you heard about these guys. Really cool, amazing VR.
Well, before they've also pivoted, because they started out doing two-way streaming, and it was meant for live events to be able to book DJs from around the world that could remote in and also interact with the crowd. And they actually had a concept event in Barcelona, which I came and performed at in real life. And we also streamed a DJ in from California. But then, with COVID and such, they got more into creating virtual worlds, and that's sort of what they're focused on.
Yeah, so that's what we'll be doing, to even give a bit more of a value perks to the benefits to the collectors. So, we as you can see, we're kind of mashing a bunch of stuff in there. We don't know what's going to happen. What we do know is that we're doing something that has not been done in the past. We're doing something that therefore, in a way creates history within the blockchain. And I think that's, I have been following blockchain for the last, I'd say 5 years or so. And it's definitely been, fantastic experience in seeing a very rewarding actually experience to place a piece of content out there and then just sit back and say, wait, what happens? You'll be disappointed at the beginning, maybe you kill it, and there's ups and downs. It's a roller coaster really because of the volatility of the assets and just the unstable or unstabilized demand and supply of the whole thing. But what is definitely has been a common denominator along the whole way is if we put something out there and then we just wait to see what happens, right? Because it's already there, it's on the blockchain. Once we push one of these NFTs out there, it just lives there forever. And it's very interesting then to see what you can do afterwards, right? So people continue to look at it, regardless if you actually sold the NFT or anything, it still is in your collection. And and that collection has a vintage, right? And in art, as you guys know, vintage is relevant, and it's not going to be any different when we have the genesis or the beginning of this blockchain world just coming to us. We don't know if this is going to be around for the next 50, 100, 200 years. We don't know. Therefore, it might be a good idea to start considering again to putting content out there, venturing into the space. And at least on our side, on my side, it's always been rewarding, just for one way or another. I can give you a quick example because I know we're running out of time now. But a year ago we were minting NFTs, and yeah, it was by the way, it used to cost about what, €5 to mint an NFT back then. Now it's as mentioned from 100 to 200 bucks. It's with these prices this morning, I think it's 200 bucks now. So it's also becoming more expensive. And yes, I mean, there's new offerings, there's new blockchains, there's new things out there. But then I come back again to the decentralization bit. There's a really interesting topic going around when it's very easy, for a creator to say, well, Ethereum's so expensive, then and it's just this, I can do the same and just go to any other chain. I'll just do so, and then just forget about this 200 bucks. Why should I give this 200 bucks to who anyway, right? And yeah, fair point. But Ethereum is the most decentralized. It's one of the oldest chains. It was them who started the whole movement with the CryptoKitties and their users. And this is where the collectors, the really, really heavyweight collectors, at least in my experience, have been in the last few years. So anyway, I mentioned this. I wanted to mention this. This 1 year ago, because 1 year ago we have some NFTs there that we minted, and we did it for fun, just the way these guys did with the Dodges and the CryptoKitties and whatnot. And these today, what we're looking at is, and what we're looking at is right now is, those NFTs that we minted about a year ago happen to be collateral that can be used to take a loan on a dApp, just like the Staxe app that you guys have on screen, on another dApp called, for example, an NFTX or DieX, where you can actually, submit your art in a way, give it to escrow as collateral, and they will give you a loan based on the value that the protocol can find in your NFT, which includes the vintage point, which was something that we would never expect. Come on, like we minted it out of fun, and then 1 year later you tell me it's very valuable and I can actually get a loan on that for up to 500 euros. I mean, yeah, it's not much, but I don't know what that's going to be, what that figure will be in 10 years. So these are the kind of things that are interested to talk about, to start getting acquainted with. And yeah, I mean, we're almost out of time. I guess we'd like to definitely invite you guys for May 1st, and then open up for questions if you guys like. I don't know, Il, if you would like to add anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be great. It would be streamed on a few different platforms as well. So, I'll probably on your Twitch, maybe on my YouTube. So if you can't make it to Valencia, you can still come online through the magic of the internet.
That's really insightful, guys. Questions. I know we've got some, we've got some startups. Andy, you just put in a question there. Do you want to unmute yourself and put the question out to the guys there?
Hi, all. That was really interesting. Particularly, I think you might have answered it and I might have missed it, but earlier on you mentioned that it was a particularly sort of interesting way at financing a project, differently than how sort of a traditional label or independent label might do. So I'm just interested, how does the relationship with Staxe work? Do they get an allocation of the NFTs? Is it a sort of profit share? Is like, doesn't have to necessarily talk about your specific deal, but just in the way that model might work going forwards in terms of using the NFT model to get investment for the actual production of the NFTs in the first place?
Yeah, actually we didn't manage to cover that, and that's a very good question. It's basically, to keep it, to make the answer short, we are replacing ticket sales, which we can't do now. We failed quite miserably, and I think most people in the industry have failed quite miserably to monetize the streamings, right? So and then you can't sell tickets. Very hard to sell tickets these days. Like, well, we're asking you, hey, are you in for selling tickets? Like, nah, see you in 2022. So to kind of go around this situation, it's the NFT story. We can replace the income stream from the actual ticket sales with collector sales income. So to answer your question, we tokenize the whole thing. We allow investors in which fund this whole production, the video, the NFTs, the minting. Yeah, basically, potentially, like you said, an entire, well, actually they funded the EP, and potentially they can fund an entire album. Why not? And where Staxe comes in is we just structure kind of the capital. We structure the investors and the potential people share that will do this, that will share the split from the NFT sale. So just to kind of like to keep it practical, we will sell 100 tokens for this event. We will have 100 investors. And then that token will start, let's say, this production costs 10,000 euros. And then we managed to, through the NFT sales, to get 20,000 euros out of the whole thing. So we pay back the production costs, which are 10, and then the investors double their money. And the artist, of course, also has a piece of that. But that's also defined, for example, in this instance, the artist does keep 75% of the profits, So that was defined by her. And then what was really cool also with this model is that since you have these tokens and they're transferable, what could happen is, hey, I want to do a massive PR for my EP launch, right? So the typical questions, for most artists are, okay, I will have to, you want to do PR, so then give me 10,000 euros before I take a look at your project. But it could be different if we say, hey, you won't get the $10,000 up front, but I'll give you 10 of my tokens, which might be worth those $10,000 or more. And then we create a very interesting negotiation table, right, for the artists, for bringing in collaborators, and then for adding pieces to what was then, or back then, only them. So this was also something very interesting that we have encountered. It is working. There's people that they just get stoked and they say, hey, I want in. How do I participate? It's like, hey, man, help me out. Shoot, what is it that you can offer to the project? Bring me some value, you get tokens back. And this takes 5 seconds to settle, and it's trustless. We don't need to trust that guy. We transfer the token and everything is on the blockchain again. So it's quite trackable. It's quite reliable. We don't even need to know our collaborator. He could be, from Seal or whatever you want. So that was our experience so far. The very long answer.
Yeah, and I still am owning the NFTs, and then separately, I agree to proportionally allocate that percentage back to them, and then they distribute it back. So essentially, that would be a lot of work for me to even try to do on my own, and then I would also have to be getting people who knew about all the things, smart contracts and things like that. So I mean, the value to me is also greater in regards to that, just the organization of everything.
Yeah, and the key thing is that you still retain the ownership of that, regardless of the percentage that you're paying out and what have you. Okay, interesting. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah.
Great. I think Peter also has a question. If you wanna chime in there, Peter. There you go.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
Thanks for it's a great talk. Thank you for everything and the explanations and everything. One of the areas that you touched upon, and it was like cross-chaining and stuff. My question is, and I might have missed it, but is, say I put something on OpenSea, I mint it, secondary market, goes on for 10 years, OpenSea shuts down. What happens? What happens to the person that owns it? Can it go on to another, can it be transferred to another marketplace? It's like, we talk about like, in music, we have like, the ISRC codes and stuff. It's like, okay, you can just move around, go through a different distributor. But what happens to the NFT if the marketplace shuts down?
Yeah, so what happens there is your collector has lost its access to the original content. That's a short answer. Therefore the asset has lost its value. You cannot no longer. I mean, you can still verify the ownership because it lives in at least OpenSea lives in Ethereum. So let's say Ethereum does prevail, not OpenSea, then you will still have the token, no problem. It's just that it gives you access to nothing. You will click on it, and then you will come to, it lives in OpenSea. OpenSea is centralized media. And the reason why ill-esha could actually put 100 megs of media in there is because they centralize, they do it on databases, central databases. Therefore, answering your question, if OpenSea goes down, the database goes down, access to the media is down, it's worthless. So it's that's why it's important, right? To the chainness that we call the chainness or of the asset or where it lives is very important these days. It's kind of like a whole new element to the asset, and
well, that's why it gives value, right? If you store your files somewhere that's more secure, because then that person knows that they're not like the unlockable. So even if OpenSea goes down, maybe you lose access to that initial animation, but you don't lose access to the album or the video or anything else, as long as I've parked it somewhere safe. So that's why it adds value.
Yeah.
But is there an opportunity then to somehow resell it then? Because if I have, in the physical art world, it's like, here's my certificate of authenticity. And it's like, yeah, if I lose that, then there's a problem. But is this kind of, you still have the certificate of authenticity in the smart contract, but say if I want to resell this, is there a way, can you do that if you still own it, like you download it, if it's a video file, I own the video file, it's not attached into, like you said, it's cut, it's not there, but could I put that back up and somehow put it together, say, here's the token, and here's the video of it?
Yeah, but that would basically break the chainness of the media. It wouldn't be the same. It's just, well, I can obviously right now I can go on OpenSea right now, where ill-esha is, and we don't even have to wait for this whole thing to happen. I just download the media from there. I'm sure I can hack my way into it and just download the media and then upload it into a new blockchain and say it's mine. And then what happens? So what happens kind of is your question, but no way. I mean, this is what's really cool about the blockchains, that we have a public ledger, which allows us to track that token or that asset all the way through its creation, from its creation all the way through its change of, to change of hands. And therefore, we would be able to see who did the original minting. So let's say, OpenSea gets taken down, and then we go once again in Ethereum, we go on the foundation which prevailed, and then we post it up there again. So I, the collector, will come to the creator and say, hey man, what's happening here? I am supposed to be the legit owner of this that you sold to me back then. And if you as a creator do not, it is in a way your, in my opinion, that's in a way your obligation or your, you know, your deal with your collector, that it's his, right? So you should allow quickly, if OpenSea gets shut down, make sure that he has access to it elsewhere and in another place, right? And that would be challenging to once again match the token with that media, because the token is actually, it's, I mean, once you mint the token, you cannot edit it. They're immutable. They are, that's it. I mean, once it's on the blockchain, the block is closed. We're on the next block. We cannot go back to the previous block, which means we cannot say to that token, hey, now look at the, now get the media or source the media from another place. It becomes extremely complex. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it becomes extremely complex. So that's why it's important to look at that matrix now.
Right. It's just, you know, the thing is, like, on the buyer side, it's like you're looking at, you know, you're investing or buying, purchasing, investing, whatever you want to look at it as, into the content, the artwork, the music, but also the risk comes from what the platform, the marketplace that you're purchasing on.
Exactly. There is an inherent risk that's why we were trying to highlight that, right? And that's a good way to look at it, a risk, because you're already getting into your collector's mind, right? Which would be risk.
Yeah.
And not risk for the creator once you sold it, yeah, but it's a risk for the, and that's kind of the awareness that you have to do when you mint and where you mint, and that was the whole point precisely. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. No, this is great. You know, thank you for everything, and just definitely going to keep looking out for these more of these NFTs.
Yes, absolutely, Peter.
With what you're creating, it's really cool.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. I mean, we hope you guys really enjoy the chat. Do we have time for more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's any other questions, guys, please do chime in. I do have a question, ill-esha, but being kind of, you know, World Earth Day and all that, and even when I posted this on Instagram today, I actually had a couple of people come on saying, oh, you know, it's NFTs and blockchain are destroying the environment and la-di-da-di-da as it goes. We know that XDAI is kind of, you know, one of the more forward thinking when it comes to the environment. Maybe it's a question for you, Luis or ill-esha. Is there any one that you would kind of like prefer when it comes to this question of the impact that blockchain is having on the environment? Is there a platform specifically that you would say wins out that kind of argument?
Well, it's tough right now because we're in a stage of evolution right now. Like, they are improving things, they are moving forward to the next generation, and you have nicer, like, clean blockchains like Tezos and, you know, Cardano and stuff like that. But the problem is, as an artist trying to get reach, is like they're still not very connected. And as Luis said, the blockchain of choice is also important. Ghost Market is a newcomer, and I have some friends on that, and I really like the idea. And at the same time, they're on this Neo blockchain, and it's not connected to anything else. And so there's a lot of little things, like, for instance, I'm a pretty active part of the Audius community. I have been since the early days, and they have a new thing where you can display your NFTs as a collectible. However, it only works within the Ethereum network. And it sounds small, but I mean, that is, like, you know, I am a musician, and that is where people come and look at me. And so it is unfortunate. But the other thing about it is I have been, you know, I've been an environmentalist. My mom started making me recycle and making my class recycle in, like, first grade, before there was recycling in public. Like, it was just crazy. She's an OG. So it's always been very important to me. And so I did a lot of research into this, and I found that there's a lot of sort of biased data, and a lot of it is interesting when you look at the source of this data. There's a lot of, like, traditional finance publications and high art curators that are sort of like, everyone, you know, NFTs are so bad for the environment, and pointing the finger and, like, this is why you shouldn't do it. And I got a little sucked in at first too. So I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I gotta go do my research. And then I started finding, like, okay, you know, I'm not saying that there's no impact, but if you look at a lot of other industrial industries, and even if you look at traditional banking and, like, things like mining blood diamonds and all these things that go on in the background, it's like, yeah, we don't stop using money, because unfortunately there is literally a cost to it, and we are working on making things better. So I mean, there's no perfect answer yet, but I do feel encouraged by the expansion of things like Cardano and all the different stake pools. So I think that, you know, as a human, what I'm also doing is investing in these causes to help advance them. You know, I was actually given some crypto. Like, that's one part of my story I forgot to tell, is that being with Audius, they gave this airdrop to their early adopters, and all of a sudden, for the first time, I had crypto. And so I went around and played with it, and I started learning learning from my great crypto finance teacher about how to find out more about these companies and what they support. And so I went, oh, Cardano has this clean water stake pool and they're doing that. I'm going to take my Cardano and invest it and stake it into that. So I think that it's one of those things where it really, it's worth the time to just not only research what's going on, but see if you can support it in any small way and be part of that. Because I definitely hope that, maybe after my next collection can be on a Tezos or be on the future network, because I think that we are moving to that point. So that's my answer. I don't know if Luis has anything to add to that.
No, I mean, it's definitely, it's an ongoing topic. I mean, we typically are challenged by when we say, hey, we're minting NFTs, we're minting tokens, we're using the blockchain. It's also a valid challenge, to question as to, do we really need to be burning this amount of energy in the way we're burning, right? And I mean, the way I usually like to go about it, I mean, sometimes I get killed with these arguments, but it's just the way I think. It's, would you stop using an ATM when you need money? Or would you, are there alternatives to using an ATM? Yeah, I mean, you can transfer money, but what if you need to pay for something in cash, right? So don't use ATMs. If you're not gonna use a blockchain, don't use ATMs, right? It's the same thing. It's financial infrastructure. It's a new way to communicate. So that's on one side. Really don't blame it on the amount of energy that this needs. Really more blame it on the current state of the infrastructure of our energy sources. Another argument, for example, in that sense, especially for the artists, people moving around art back and forth, all these pieces that are being auctioned right now on Christie's and these art curating galleries. Hey, these guys easily burn, I don't know how much, moving in jets back and forth these art pieces for their galleries. We now have now found a way, with NFTs that we're burning, where it is equivalent almost to one of those flights, or to a 2-hour flight. We've seen the facts, but it's still less than taking the art back and forth, the physical art back and forth to the gallery, all the way to Switzerland and back to New York. So I mean, these are things that let's be partial. And I tried to say also, ill-esha mentioned, she even I give it to you, you even told me, hey, I do not feel comfortable right now with this NFT burn rate, the energy consumption. And then she was even thinking of delaying the whole thing. And I told her, wait for it, because if you follow really the infrastructure and its evolution, it is heading into that space. We have this thing called proof of work. We're moving into proof of stake. The Ethereum core team has been working on this for 3 years, guys. They're not ignoring it. And this is why sometimes people are saying, hey, Ethereum is the devil, proof of stake is the devil. No, guys, it was just the first step of the technology, and they're improving it. They're just like any other technology, they're generating efficiencies these days to allow us to reduce consumption, optimize gas emissions, and they're very well aware of this even before we were users of the technology. So yeah, we'll see this. It's a shift, it's a change. Some artists are moving away, for example, from proof of work and just disregarding it, and then just going to let's say cleaner or gasless or not energy burning options. That's fair enough, but I would encourage everyone to be more aware of moving completely to another network such as Ghost Market. Ghost Market is great, it's on Neo, but then is Neo really reliable? Will that be a blockchain that prevail? And again, we come back to decentralization and these topics. So there's many things in the table. It is relevant. It will be improved in the near future. And yes, I mean, it is valid. It is a valid point. We will see those efficiencies as with any other technology, I think, come to place very soon.
Yeah, good answer. Andy Ferguson, you've suddenly popped on video. Did you have a question?
I do. Yeah, I live in Valencia, and I'm wondering if I can attend the event can the general public go, or is this only for investors?
Yes, absolutely. Would love to have you. We're actually...
I'll be there.
Yeah, please do.
It's a bank holiday too, so no excuse.
Exactly. It's a great...
Every day in Valencia is a holiday.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, listen, for both ill-esha and Luis, because you're both on the platform, I'd love to kind of stay connected and let everyone know when this is happening in May. So I'll make sure to connect with you both and kind of like push that on the platform as well, because it sounds really, really interesting. I'd love to attend it virtually myself.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we can, for those of you guys that can't make it, we have to maybe we have some spots in the VR room. Otherwise, we'll be streaming this, and it should be a really cool show. We want to make this available to as many people as possible. So thanks for that.
We'll be in touch before those dates happen, and I'll push that on the network there. So yeah, guys, that was super informative. Really, it's an amazing campaign you're doing. It's something I've never seen before. So it's kudos to you both.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. All
right, guys. This is recorded. So again, if anyone here you missed anything, I'll have this up on the platform kind of Monday, I would say. So yeah, with that, Elisa, Luis, super informative. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thanks for coming.
And,
thanks for everyone.
We'll see you guys again.
Bye.
Have a great.
Thanks for coming,
Have
guys.
a great one. Ciao.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.